Hello, my name is Celine, the founder of Love Yourself Project. I would like to welcome you to our second episode of Pyjamas and Pearls, where we will bring together the magic of unfiltered conversations and pearls of wisdom. In this episode, we will be discussing the power of female creativity through the written word. Today's pajama crew is truly international. Joining us from Spain, our writing coach, Edita Nowinska, holistic confidence coach, May Flynn, and emotion code practitioner, Linda Breville. And from England, we have Claudia Roth, founder of Soul Luxury, which is a global community that inspires conscious living and space for self-reflection. And now I'll hand it over to Edita, who will be leading this conversation.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to see you today and with this topic that from my practice and from my work is so important, especially for us women. But before we head to the topic and start to crack it down, there is a word that I want to know what the meaning of it. What is your personal meaning of this? And that would be, no surprise, the story. When I say the story, what comes to your mind?
So for me,
go ahead, May. No, go ahead.
Okay, so I think for me, it would be the story of my life and what's borne me on my journey to where I am now. So it might be some challenging, difficult times, but everything's exactly as it's meant to be.
Great.
For me, stories are a sequence of experiences.
Yeah, it's background to events and perspective and experience.
And Celine?
That's exactly what I was going to say, so nothing more.
Nothing more to add.
Definitely about experiences.
Right, look, this is amazing how you all like adjust these words straight away to your life, like so personally. For me, the story is something that is not part of me, something that is just there in the world. You know, the world is full of stories. We are actually all created from stories. We tell stories, we listen to the stories, we watch stories. Stories are all over. They're creating our reality, but we are stories in a way too, but we are narrators of our stories. This is how I see it. But this is also, I can say that this is probably also, there's different perspectives coming from me being fiction writer and you being non-fiction writers, right? So I wanted to ask you a question, like, what is your first memory of writing? You writing, what is your first memory, the earliest memory?
Writing at school, primary school, writing short stories.
When was it? How old were you?
Oh, about 8 or 9.
Great.
Yeah, I loved it. Using imagination.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What about you, ladies? When was it? Which age? When is your first memory of writing?
I would say for me, it's actually even younger than that, but writing stories through drawing of pictures. So before I could actually write a word.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, it was probably at school as well. I don't know, the age around 5 or 6, I think. And it was great being a child because you're using your imagination and just able to be creative.
Yeah.
Very interesting. My first memory didn't lead me to school. I identified school and writing more learning, and I had to do it. Where I connected to the profoundness of writing is when I left my corporate world, the corporate world, and decided to jump into another life. And that's where I discovered the profoundness of writing.
Yeah, so this is very common actually, that we have like this very early memory of us telling the stories or writing the stories or drawing the stories. Then we have this period of like nothing, like completely blank page. And then we have our first experience of really like being conscious what we are writing, what we are doing, and why we are doing it. That's what I can say. It's like very common, very common experience between us women, because we are not, well, first of all, as a children, we are not really encouraged to tell the stories, because look what is happening. Like you hear so many, there's some children that they are so gifted, you know, to tell the stories, to write them down, to draw them. But what the adults usually say, stop making up, stop lying, right? This is not lying, this is imagination, what you, Linda, said, using my imagination, creating. So we, like the adult world is seeing something extremely beautifully creative as lying and making up. And we are being ashamed for doing it. So then we stop doing it, or we do it like very, like somewhere, you know, when nobody is watching. We are not telling anybody, we are forgetting about doing it eventually. And then, like you, Claudia, then some moment of transition happens, and this need of expressing ourselves by telling stories is coming back, and we just dive into it. This is maybe, I don't like to generalize, but I think this is our very human, very female human experience, something that we all went through. Would you say the same? Do you see the pattern?
Yeah, I think when we're children, we're more open to using our imagination and being playful, and living in a fantasy world. And as you say, adults, actually, we get programmed by our parents, our teachers, society, by the stories they tell us about what we should do, how we should think and behave. And for women, especially as we get older, there's a time in our life when we are so busy, it's hard to find even 5 or 10 minutes to journal a diary. But that is so therapeutic if people can do that, and to keep those journals and then look back on the path we've taken and the experiences we've had, and realize just what an amazing story there is in all of us, really. We're all so unique.
I can relate to what you say about time. Sorry.
No, go on, Meg, please.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can relate, Linda, to what you said about time, because the time I've written the most is when I've been traveling, just journaling, because we have time and reflecting at the end of the day and sitting there. But normally every day in life, maybe we don't have time unless we make the time to do it.
Especially these days when women are working, looking after children, possibly caring for an elderly relative. There just don't seem to be enough hours in the day for the luxury of journaling or just writing for pleasure.
Yeah, this is something you used a very important word, very important phrase, writing for pleasure. We are actually, as a women, not really encouraged to do something for pleasure or something as useless as just writing. Journaling, at least, is therapeutic. So there is, like, if we are working with a coach or working with a therapist, they encourage us to do it. That's part of process. But then writing the fiction stories, writing just for fun, writing just for nobody. This is also like very often a problem, you know, like women, they say, okay, I could write it, but for whom I'm doing it? No one will publish it. No, you do it for yourself, for your creativity, for your expression. And it doesn't have to be a part of your life story or journaling or something realistic or something true that is happening. Just do it for pleasure of doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It could be painting a picture or drawing or creating some craft work of some sort, but we feel very self-indulgent and selfish for doing that when we have so many other things and people to take care of. Whereas the guys can quite happily go fishing or play golf or retreat to their man cave to do whatever they do. But for us, we feel that that's not appropriate, perhaps.
Now, Claudia, you have written along or co-authored with several other women a very interesting book. So I'd love to hear more about that. How did you get all these women who are so busy because they have jobs to actually write a chapter in this book?
Celine, that's a very good question. I have been reflecting on it because we launched the book exactly a year ago and we had never met. We went through the whole process during pandemic and via Zoom. And what we discovered was something very profound in the space of writing. When we allow ourselves to reflect on our lives and we step out of the situation and we can write about it, there is an incredible healing happening. And to answer your question, Celine, this how I have a sense of people, and I knew some of the women who have had an incredible, rich life with trials, tribulations, pain, suffering, joy. And it so happened that we all came together in that beautiful way. And what was so powerful was that none of us are so-called authors. We actually stepped into that space of allowing ourselves to write about our stories. But what was very interesting, and we reflected in a sharing circle about it, when we wrote the stories, there were certain aspects we were not ready to really vulnerably open the Pandora box. So it's also, it's part of the process of letting go, of understanding the message in that pain. So the women who came together whilst leading corporate careers, it was a calling from the soul to embrace writing as a healing journey. But at the time when we came together and wrote the stories, we didn't even know the profoundness of healing. But what is actually now happening is, because we went through a certain process where we held space for each other so that we could actually go deep into our own stories, what is happening is that there is a new space opening, an incredibly, in a sense of community, where we show up as perfect and as imperfect as we are, and walk the path to our heart. So it moved from writing the story, from a healing, personal healing, to a new space of sisterhood, deep sisterhood.
So do you think that this stemmed from your original 28-day journal? This is how the I Am Every Woman book came about? Is that how it connected?
It's again a very interesting question. Thank you for asking it, because what I wanted to share earlier to Ed Yata's question was, I went through a very difficult time in my life, so I was drawn to writing, but more from a place of reflection to understand, my own complexities, my own pain and suffering. So I was writing, and I was writing every morning, and then I had the desire to share, and I shared it with a small network of friends, and from that I created a closed Facebook page, and all of this has actually grown into a global community. So I was always drawn to self-reflect, and writing gets me deep into that state of inner reflection. So the journal was gave me the experience to actually to publish a book from a place of what experience would a reader want.
And how
Interesting.
how did you get to this understanding of what kind of experience would the reader want?
Well, we didn't write, for the reader, because this is not about. Uh, it was not. We are not coming from a place of how many sales do we want to do. No, 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 no. Actually, just the opposite. We wanted to show up in our in vulnerability, because that's where we all meet life as itself. So what we detached ourselves from uh, what the reader wanted. It was really what we wanted, what we were able and wanted to share. But there are some aspects, for example, in the book of I'm Every Woman, at the back, we actually document how to write your story, how to get you going to write, because it's very, after maybe 50 years of your old life, it's where do you start? Because we all have a lot of experience. Like Linda, you traveled around the world, you have so much experience. May, Idia, Celine, where do you start? So, we actually shared a process of how to get started, also with intention setting, because it's a sacred experience to allow your life to find the expressions through a pen on a paper. It's a very sacred experience. It's everything who you are.
Yes, and I think it's very useful to help people realize that they're not alone, which was one of the reasons why I wrote my book, to explain to other people who were going through experiences living overseas and traveling, that the ups and downs they were dealing with, they were not alone with them. So many people I spoke to and heard from, they said, "Oh, thank goodness, I've met someone. I thought it was just me." And no, it's not just you. And it helped people to process their emotions. Because they were taking a whole load of emotional baggage from one place to the next. And I always say, you always take yourself with you and recreate problems and situations, because nothing's changed within unless you process that emotional baggage first.
I mean, one of the stories is about a woman, a successful woman actually, who was in an abusive relationship for 30 years. A woman like you and me. You would never ever have assumed, because she comes across as very strong, and she tells her story, what it means to live in an abusive relationship. And that has, so many women can identify with her, because they are actually experienced that, but society wouldn't recognize them in that light, because you would think when you meet the person, it's just a normal woman like you and me, but there is so much pain and suffering behind that facade, that it's very profound to open up that conversation. Or one of the women was writing about a child loss, and we do actually global sharing circles, and so many women come forward to share that they have lost children through different circumstances, and there is so much pain. But when we allow ourselves to speak about it, to write about it, we are creating space for a new experience, to be open for healing.
Exactly.
Now, May, I don't think you've ever written a book, but you've written many articles.
Yeah.
And you've also had, like, I'm going to say a zillion life experiences, like with your travels. Is this something you thought you would actually do, is eventually write your life story or something
Yeah.
like it?
No,
As
I
a-
would like to. Yeah, eventually. And Claudia, I think as you were saying, or Linda, I can't remember, we don't know where to start sometimes. Everybody says to me, wow, you have so many experiences, you should write a book. And I go, yeah, it's on the list, I'll do it. But I think it is that getting started. And once we get started and know how to do it, then yeah, I'm sure I will do it one day. So maybe I need inspiration from you all to actually get started and put the pen to paper or type up some things. But I like writing small articles and blogs and things. I like sharing my experiences. as well. So the book is there somewhere. Watch this space. And as you said, Edita, with coaching, we do encourage clients. I do it a lot myself as well. Encourage clients to write, because it's about people expressing their feelings, emotions, and sometimes people maybe don't know how to express it verbally. So if they write or draw pictures, they're just expressing in different ways, and it's just a good way to process what's going on, I think. So yeah, it's a big part of what I, encourage clients to do if they want to write.
So
Yeah,
I've actually, sorry, Adita, I've actually got a question for all of you, just because of what May just said. Do you think that women specifically have trouble writing because they are feeling ashamed that they're not writing well, or that they feel they need to finish the story like in a day, even though it's taken, 50 some odd years for their life? Because I know I met some people who say, oh yeah, I'd really like to write, but I just don't have the time. And I'm thinking, couldn't you just take like 15 minutes a day and write even just points as you think of them? And then at some point you will finish it up. So Edita, what do you think about that? Is that possible?
Yeah, I can tell you what, it's not like I'm not even thinking I have experience, because I'm working with the women writing their stories, and I know exactly what are their problems. I mean, all these years being a coach for writing, supporting women writing their stories, whether it's a nonfiction story or a fiction story, I know what's the problem. The problem is that, first of all, they believe that the world doesn't need their story, that nobody wants to hear it. It's like a story, like a million of other stories. I mean, I remember myself, I was writing short stories, I was writing poems, and then I had this idea for the novel for the first time, and I told the whole, I pitched my friend, telling him about this idea, and he was like, this is brilliant, you have to write this book. And I said, there's millions of these stories on this world. That was my own approach. So I totally understand women saying there's million of these stories already. Like, why would they hear another story like this? But then I'm telling them exactly what my friend said. Yes, but no one will tell you with this perspective, with this point of view that is yours. No one will tell this story like you do. This is why you have to tell the story. So this is the first thing, the first obstacle that needs to be like really worked out. Why actually, like, to believe that your story, that the world needs your story, that another women and other people, they need your story, even though they heard the story like this already so many times. Or like what you both said, Linda, what you said, like, yeah, like this feeling like, oh, wow, I'm not the only one going through this, right? I'm not the only one feeling this. They completely don't believe in it. It's not about lack of imagination, it's just disbelief. And then the second thing is like, do I actually know how to write? Am I doing it good? Women are so full of doubts. Even when they start writing, when they know where they're going, when they have structured their stories, they are still very much uncertain about the kind of quality of writing they deliver. So, and this is something about self-esteem, I believe. This is something deeper than just judging your style, your writing style. This
So
is
many people.
something for coaching, for real coaching, because also like this is what I see, all these problems with writing are not really problems with writing, in fact. But then by writing and taking this challenge, you discover which part of your life or your personality you're making a problem, or you're having a problem with, not because of you making it complicated, but because everybody else telling you, your childhood, your partners, your whatever. And then the third thing is like lack of support. We are not being supported even very rarely by our partners or families. Many of my clients, they wrote amazing books and they said, my husband is laughing at me, was laughing at me when I was telling him I'm writing a book. So I was hiding it. He doesn't even know that I've done it. And I don't even want to show him that because he doesn't believe in me being a writer, being able to write the whole book and this book being good. And we all have these stories in our families that we are not supported. Like, you know, I can tell you like my very briefly, and this will be probably like every woman will just identify with this. My father didn't read any of my 3 novels because he's only reading the nonfiction books, right? The historical books. My brother, he said he read them, but he said he could do it better. My sister didn't read it because she basically thinks books are like for people who don't know what to do with their free time. And there's just my mom, who is my biggest fan, and she's always asking, when is your next book coming? And she loves all my stories. And this is, all of us are in the same situation, more or less. You know, we have a lack of support and we are afraid because we don't believe in our writing. So it comes back to the first reason. We don't search for the community. And this is what Claudia said, sisterhood.
Mhm.
Sisterhood of sisters who are writing, doesn't matter whether they're doing this good or bad, or 5 minutes per day or 5 minutes per week. Just find your tribe. This is what I'm always saying, find your tribe.
We need more cheerleaders. I find when I'm working with people to release their emotional baggage and deal with their problems, the root cause, as you say, is lack of self-esteem. People, especially women, feel they're not good enough, and they've been programmed perhaps from childhood. You know, a father says to them, oh well, you know, good job, you've got good looks and not the brain, or well, you're so pretty, you don't need a career, you know, you'll marry well. All these sort of stories we're told, and that sits from when you're about the age of 6 or 7, and that becomes our belief system, and we don't try, and we don't open up with other people. So we need safe spaces and to be our own cheerleaders, encourage each other, because very few other people do. And men often feel threatened, even though they say they want women to be independent, they feel threatened by the prospect of you having more success than they do, unfortunately, still.
Yeah, if I could just add something to this. Sorry, my video is not working. Hi, everybody.
Hi,
I've tried
Sabina.
2-3 times to come and go in and out, but it's not working. So I'll just add my my understanding of that. I think that if you look back at traditional societies or even rural societies some time ago, or even if you go to something more ethnic or indigenous, like the Red Indian societies or the Balinese societies, to, you know, just to put a few to name, their understanding of life was very different, and the story of life was very different. Every day was a story, and it was related in the evening, or it still is in many societies or you know, communities of such sort, where you sit together around the fire, or you sit together and you have dinner together or whatever as a community. And there's a story that's being told. What did this child do? What did this, you know, uncle do? What does the grandfather have to tell about our history of our tribe or whatever? So there was a different way of understanding communication, and that communication was a story. So I think there was, we've lost that somewhere down the line. You know, there's too much of technology. There's too much of I'm living my own life and my own, you know, my own sort of way of doing things, and the connection has got lost, where the story actually was built. I mean, from my understanding, I really feel that at times.
That's very profound,
Sabina.
Sabina.
I don't know what you girls think, but I've always felt that.
It's very true, very true. We've lost so much in especially in the Western world, in moving away from living in large families and communities. We're all so mobile now and global, and living our own lives, that we're so disconnected from others, and we feel isolated and alone, and we do need to reconnect.
Yeah,
I have
definitely.
to say that when I'm writing novels, especially novels, because when I'm writing the screenplays, it will be turned into visual stories, so this is different. But when I'm writing novels, novel is so very intimate. You read it, but you create this whole world in your head. Actually, you are the director, you are the producer. So then during the process of writing, I imagine myself like sitting with the group of people, with this tribe, you know, like any kind of tribe, by the fire in the evening, you know, with the dark, and just like I'm telling them story. I'm telling them story they're waiting for. So this is how I see myself and at my work, and I literally, like really visually see it when I'm working.
Yeah, that's, I feel that's really interesting when you think of that, that you actually think that you're writing with other people or with people around you, or you're writing for people. So again, it's that communication and connection, which is so important, I think, to be creative. And I think, Aditya, you do a lot of that, from what I've understood from what you're saying, with, you know, teaching other people to actually bring out who they are, which has become quite difficult now, I think, in our sort of way of life, as Linda was saying. There's so much of isolation.
I think there is another question to consider is how much are we willing to reflect on our own life experience? Because often, there is shame, there is guilt, and a lot of emotions are in that space. And how much are we willing to, to confront our own complexities? Because it's always easier if we keep the Pandora box closed, and get on with life. But then, as Linda was saying, you move from one place to another, you take yourself with you with all your conditioning, and you wonder why, you are always running after peace, as an example, or a new friendship, whatever it is. So to have the courage to take the pen and start putting your life on a paper is a big step for many people.
I think what we would do there, Claudia, is we could write, some people might just write just to express what they're feeling, and they might publish kind of a different book. So that would be the reason for doing it, isn't it? So say from the coaching perspective, people might just be sharing about past experiences, helping to process, as Linda said, going back to the old beliefs and things. Or there might be a part of that story they might be happy to publish, but not everything, maybe.
And we had, when we started I'm Every Woman, we had 17 authors. Two wrote their stories and decided not to publish for one or the other reason. And that's absolutely okay. We don't have to write to publish. That's not, who am I to say that everybody needs to have a book in the market? Whilst, like you said, each story is worth to be published, but that's not everybody's aim, and it shouldn't be either, because there is a big thing about I'm a published author, da 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 da. So but this is not always our our aspiration, and that needs to be protected and honored too. But the two ladies who didn't publish the books, they found the experience so profound that they are now considering to join the next intake, I Am Every Woman #2, because now they are ready. They have had conversations with those involved in abuse and other situations. So it takes some time to go public, so to say.
Yeah, when the time's right for them, isn't it? When they feel they're ready to do it.
Yeah.
I also want to say that there is many ways of telling the stories, actually, not only by writing it down. You can draw. There's like, we all remember, like the old times, people like having their drawing books whilst traveling and making drawings. You can photograph, you can make movies, you can make animations, you can do like painting. Then when you're back home, like big, I don't know, wall painting, you can paint your wall. That's also telling a story, right? So we quite often we also see it like kind of black and white. Okay, writing a story is writing. We use this word, writing, but it's about creating the story. It's about being creative about your own need to express yourself. This is your soul calling to ask you to, because we are creative beings, so just find your way, you know, and express your creation, just whatever works for you. It also, like, the more creative you do, the more creative things you do, you try new things, you find the courage to try something else. I can say, like, that's why I'm writing screenplays for movies. I'm also like, I'm doing photography. I'm doing photo sessions of people, you know, and animals. It's very difficult, but somehow I love it and they love me. And also, like, dancing is a way for me of telling stories. I'm dancing flamenco since 2 years every week. And this is a way of expressing also for me in a creative way and tell the story with my body, for example, not with just my mind and my hands, you know, typing.
Yeah, there's a very interesting concept, Aditya. I love what you're saying, which we were taught in life coaching some time ago in a seminar, and there was where we were taught that if you had a client who didn't know how to sort of talk or bring out whatever was in their feeling or whatever they wanted to discuss, they were asked to actually draw, which is exactly what you're talking about. It says, okay, imagine you're a tree. So what kind of tree are you? And within that, you know, within that concept, somebody would come up as an oak tree, somebody would come up as a flowering tree, somebody would come up as a cherry blossom in Japan. I mean, it was amazing the different visions everybody had of them as a tree and how they connected to it. And somebody had roots going down and somebody had no roots. And, you know, somebody was reaching the sky. So it was just unbelievable how the mind wanders and how you created your own story in that drawing of whatever you felt within yourself. So very much in relation to what you said, Aditya, which I just loved.
I think there is also like the big difference between like telling stories, because we see them like quite visually. When I'm writing, actually, no matter if I'm writing a novel or a screenplay, I see the scenes. So I kind of describe the scenes that I already see in my head. But so this is like, then this creation is very visual. I could also like draw or photograph or just shoot a movie, record something, a movie, piece of it. But then being a narrator, that's another thing. So really like telling this storytelling, we have this word storytelling, right? And that means as a storyteller, you are the narrator. And then the question is like, do we have enough of courage to be the narrator of our own life? And this is what you, Claudia, said, like, not everyone is ready. Not everyone is ready to be the narrator and to share it with the world. And it's okay, because you don't need to be ready. You don't need to do it. You might write your story just for yourself because this is intimate, maybe painful, maybe shameful, maybe you feel ashamed, but then you can still express it in the other way. You can make another creation out of it. Just let it flow, let it start. And writing can be starting point. Like journaling can be starting point. I do it often just for myself, for the clarity of my mind, when I'm to see the big picture of what I'm dealing with, because on a daily basis, when I reflect, it's like this emotion, this feeling, this moment, but then at some point I want to see it all. And then I'm doing journaling, and then it's like 10 pages, 10 different things that like bubbled one from another. And then I see like, oh, so this is the whole complexity of the thing I'm dealing with. Oh, right, I have it in my hand now. Now it's my decision what I'm going to do with it. I can just observe, you know, I can just accept, and this is enough sometimes.
Yeah, I love journaling, as you said as well. It's very powerful to process, isn't it? When you've got lots of things going around in our head, it's just to write it down. It can be very powerful.
Now,
yeah, I think
sorry, go ahead, Linda.
I think for a lot of people, women especially, that fear of publishing or just going ahead with sharing something in a group is, especially these days with social media, it's a fear of being judged, criticized, rejected, and that makes them nervous. And so they need some encouragement to not worry about that and to accept it as part of the deal. Not everyone is going to like what you produce, not everyone's going to agree, but there will be a lot of people who find it very, very helpful.
Well, that's very true. And what I was actually going to share is May had run a program called 21 Day of Abundance that did require some writing. And I remember my first maybe 3 days, I was hiding my journal for fear that my husband would find it. And I thought, I'm not writing anything that he already doesn't know, or anything shameful or anything bad. But this was just a very small exercise that maybe took 10 minutes, but literally I would write it, close up my book, put it in a drawer. So I think that must be a habit from, or belief from long ago somewhere.
But I also think like we this is a privacy, you know, it's something very like the writing process, the journaling especially, it's so intimate, it's so deep, you know, like you're taking the things like so deep from your soul. You don't need to, we are sharing everything, literally almost everything in our lives now, because we are social beings and we share the space with the other people, we share houses with the other people, we share thoughts, you know, and so many things. And this is a need for privacy, for having something that is just only for us, and this is okay. It's okay.
Yeah, it's totally. Oh, sorry to cut you, Aditya. I was just going to say it's more like a protection mechanism. I think that's probably what you did, Celine, isn't it?
I have no idea, because reflecting on it now, I'm thinking, what a silly thing to do.
But you know what? I will tell you something. Like there is this moment in my life that's not only about writing, that I feel like I want to have something for my own, something that I don't share with anyone. Just have like this little treasure, just only for me. And that I'm the only person having a relation with this, and this is okay.
Interesting.
I think the if we stay at the topic of writing as an example, when we observe ourselves, our relationship with that act of writing, there is such a rich experience to getting to know oneself by inquiring, why do I react like that, without judging myself that I may look it up my journal or whatever the situation is. With that deeper inquiry, it's almost like a mirror in which I can see myself, and if I'm interested, I can have a conversation with that mirror to understand myself more deeply. So I found that very powerful space, the act of writing, journaling. How do I react to it? When am I in flow? What does it mean when I'm in flow? How can I be more aligned to who I am? Is it a different way of writing than when I'm emotionally in a maybe not so comfortable place? We get a lot of insights into our own self. And isn't that the journey of life? Getting to know the self? I'm asking my question. So that's why for me, writing is really about self-awareness, self-development, self-understanding. That's from where I come when I write. And there are obviously many different reasons to write.
Oh, I will tell you something. One of the reasons why I'm a fiction writer is that I'm adult, 40 plus, and I can still have imaginary friends.
Yes. How beautiful is that?
And no one is judging me for that, right?
Good on you, girls. Good on you.
Good for you. Yes. I can see the energy, the playfulness in you, Edita, when you say that. That's a very special place for you. I can sense it.
Thank you. Because, you know, in the process of writing, there's just me and my protagonists that have been created and discovered by me, and no one knows them yet. So, like, I'm really having a lot of fun discovering them and having this, like, having the access to the world that no one has an access to yet. Then I will give this gift to the people, to the world. This is great. But, like, until now, this whole process, it's just me, you know, playing with them on this beautiful secret garden, and this is cool.
Oh, amazing.
Beautiful.
What a fun time.
Yeah.
Well, ladies, it's time for Sabina to get to bed because she's joining us all the way from Bali, Indonesia.
I have one last thing, one last
Sure.
question to you, lady. The short answer required. If you could give a gift now, a gift of a story to the world, just like now at this very moment, what would be the story about? Mine would be about encouragement, encouraging women to express themselves through being creative, whatever way they choose.
Mine would be to connect yourself to the universe and feel the energy because it's there for you. And the moment you understand that connection, you're just on a different flow altogether. And it's beautiful.
And I would like to continue on your theme, Sabina, and I would like to give the gift of soul journaling, to actually have that deeper relationship with your soul and let the soul express itself through you.
Beautiful.
I would add emotional healing.
And mine would be to inspire others to live life now and not put things on hold.
Beautiful. And Celine, the last word is yours.
And of course, it's, I guess, empowering women to learn to love themselves unconditionally, to be able to move forward and be the best version of themselves.
This is our gift to
Beautiful.
this world today.
Absolutely.
To everyone who is watching us, who is there with us, take this gift, please.
Thank you, everyone. See you at the
Thank
next
you.
session.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Hopefully I have video next time. Bye.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you,
Take
Celine,
care.
for hosting.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Celine.
Bye-bye.
Bye.